Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the Noon News from Montana's news leader.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us on your MTN Statewide News this Tuesday. I'm Jeanelle Slade. Well, it's a great day to take in at least part of Yellowstone National Park. The two gates in Wyoming are open again today for the second day this season. MTN's Jay Cohn and chief photographer Paul Humphrey lined up with the tourists yesterday to take us into the park.
Where else are you likely to meet someone from Wuhan, China?
I'm Zheng Wu. I'm actually from Wuhan, China. Sorry about the virus, folks.
Yellowstone Park, of course. Monday morning at 10 o'clock, a steady stream of cars, pickups, and campers started the trek from Yellowstone's east entrance to the park's southern loop. Yellowstone, the very first national park, also among the first in the national park system to welcome visitors back following the coronavirus shutdown. For those making the trip to the east entrance here outside of Cody, today visiting Yellowstone is pretty much a day trip. You can take the southern loop, eventually making it to Old Faithful and Canyon, but the only way out of Yellowstone from here is to turn around and go back through the east entrance or to head south towards Jackson Hole. Yes, even in the midst of a pandemic, the lure of Yellowstone shines through, bringing people from across the nation and the world to see one of America's greatest treasures. For Zhen Wu, a chance to throw his very first snowball. For Jennifer and Ellie Wilson from nearby Powell, a chance to renew their acquaintance with one of their favorite places.
We try and come once a year, but it's sometimes so frustrating with all the people that this is really nice.
Caleb from Kansas, like others today, getting to see Yellowstone for the very first time. And what a better way to forget the COVID-19 headlines, but to soak up Mother Nature at her best.
Not bad up here, yeah, it's pretty decent. I was a little surprised because of the snow on the peaks, but it's surprisingly quite beautiful out here, yeah.
Beautiful here.
Yeah, I mean, we heard it was opening up. We couldn't pass up the opportunity, you know. I still have schoolwork right now, but you know what? You can't pass this up right now. It's the best time to go.
If you're coming to Yellowstone, be prepared. Right now, only the two Wyoming entrances are open. No hotels, no restaurants. Face coverings are advised for the park's high visitation areas, and there is a limit to the number of people allowed into visitor centers. Public restrooms can also be hard to find, but most are open and complete with hand sanitizers. It's only half open, but even Yellowstone at 50% is well worth the trip. Jay Cohn reporting for MTN News in Yellowstone National Park.
All right, thanks so much to Jay and Paul. Now, with more people heading out comes more outdoor dangers. In Sweetgrass County, a person who fell into the water near Natural Bridge Falls over the weekend is now presumed dead. Crews began searching for that individual on Sunday and looked until last night, but so far have not recovered a body. Search efforts will continue with less resources through the coming weeks. The name of the victim has not been released. And here's a reminder for all Montana as spring waters rise across the state. Lewis and Clark County officials already urging neighbors to prepare for flooding, especially during the pandemic. Public health leaders say always avoid contact with flood water when possible. That's because it can contain pathogens and be contaminated with sewage and wastewater. Public health says COVID-19 has been detected in wastewater in other areas of the country. Though experts don't know if the virus is transmitted through contaminated wastewater, they say avoid contact and wash your hands after exposure. And speaking of the spring rains and those rising floodwaters, Ed McIntosh joins us now with a lot of rain in western Montana.
Yeah, that's right, especially over the last 48 hours, Jeanelle. As you can take a look, these are the areas where Doppler radar has been picking it up, and you can see this big swath from the western portion of the state all the way into north central Montana. And last evening, that even turned into some stronger storms between Great Falls and Lewistown, some strong winds. Stanford, almost 3/4 inch hail being reported there. This afternoon, this evening, we're watching areas of central and western Montana for the possibility of strong severe storms, especially from Helen and northward. And tomorrow, the eastern plains are going to be setting up for the potential of strong to severe weather. We'll break down the forecast details coming up.
All right, thanks, Ed. Well, Great Falls woman faces animal cruelty charges after fire on her property earlier this month. Pamela Jo Polayoski faces 1 felony aggravated animal cruelty charge and 4 misdemeanor counts of cruelty to animals. Court documents filed last Thursday say crews seized dozens of animals in various stages of abuse and neglect on May 6th. Paula Yuski claims to operate an animal rescue at that location called Hooves, Paws, and Claws. MTN News has learned the animals are being cared for at the Montana Expo Park in Great Falls. Well, the Bozeman City Commission met virtually last night, and one of the top topics, gender pay equity. The meeting began with a speech from the mayor with a proclamation recognizing Equal Pay Day on March 31st. The commission will then vote on Resolution 5169, which establishes requirements for the city's vendors and suppliers to adhere to specific gender pay equity practices. There are federal and state laws that do cover equal pay, and the city has already passed several resolutions related to non-discrimination. Now, the resolution would also require contractors to say they have read the state of Montana's equal pay webpage and agree to the state's best practice guidelines. Well, the latest COVID-19 numbers here in Montana show one new positive case. That's in Yellowstone County. State health officials also say 3 more people have recovered from the virus in the last 24-hour reporting period. 18 people are currently infected with COVID-19 in the Treasure State, and the death count remains at 16. This afternoon at 3 o'clock, Governor Steve Bullock is set to hold a press conference with details about Phase 2 of Montana's reopening plan. We will bring you that coverage live across the state on all MTN stations. Now, with just 2 weeks until Montana's primary election date, the first big outside money spending is showing up in the race for governor. The Washington, D.C. based group Emily's List, which supports women candidates, has purchased nearly $700,000 in broadcast and digital ads to support Democrat Whitney Williams. Williams is competing against Lieutenant Governor Mike Cooney in the Democratic primary. Now, the ad, which started airing today in several urban markets, focuses on Williams' opposition to the proposed Black Butte copper mine north of White Sulphur Springs. Emily's List says its independent expenditure arm, Women Vote, has paid for the ads to run until the June 2nd election day. The primary election is an all-mail ballot, and more than 120,000 people have already sent in their ballots. Well, 3 Republicans are also running for Montana's open governor's seat. Well, as MTN reported just a couple weeks ago, the University of Montana administrators are now telling students to prepare for the return of face-to-face instruction this fall. Like colleges and universities across the country, the UM campus has been shut down since earlier this spring. Montana Commissioner of Higher Education Clayton Christian had already indicated a couple of weeks ago that the Montana University system would move in that direction. Yesterday, UM sent a similar email to students telling them they will be back on campus with safety measures in place. UM is reminding students if they haven't completed their fall registration, they should do so as soon as possible. Well, the drive-in movie at the Lewis and Clark County Fairgrounds was officially sold out before 11 a.m. on Sunday. The demand so high, it caused the online system to clog up and drastically slow down. Jumanji 2 and Goonies will play tomorrow night to the sold-out crowd of people in their cars. We have more ahead on your new news. A trip to Missoula to meet a resident who has gone from daycare owner to mask maker. The time now is 12:08, but first, Ed McIntosh is in next with your statewide weather forecast.